all of this, when it comes to talking about making disciples, it's not about individual followers of Jesus, just on their own, lone rangers making disciples. It's about being a part of a body and together making disciples. So when it comes to those central practices that are involved in disciple making, sharing the gospel, showing the word of Christ, teaching the word of Christ, these things happen primarily through community and in our relationships with others, in the context of that at least, sharing the gospel. If we want to see unbelievers come to Christ, those unbelievers need to see evidence of community around Christ. They need to see the love of Christ in action. They need to see the mercy of Christ in action, and loving one another, serving one another, caring for one another, praying for one another. The church then becomes what Francis Schaeffer called an apologetic for the gospel, where the church becomes a picture that, especially for hardened hearts of unbelievers, softens their hearts toward the goodness of Christ in the community of faith. We're showing the word to one another in and through the church. And so we don't just walk in isolation. We walk in love and service to one another. We're teaching the word to each other and the word spreading through each other. All of that has to happen in the context of relationships with other people. And so disciple making is intricately tied to commitment to a local church. And we make disciples in local churches. And that's why even in the church that God's entrusted me to pastor, we have small groups within our church where this kind of community can play out, and where these in small group relationships with each other, they can more effectively make disciples in the community spread all around Birmingham through community with one another, locking arms together and saying, we want people to come to Christ in Birmingham. How can we work together for that? And so it's not just individuals trying to figure out how to do this. It's people in community walking alongside one another and doing this together. And together we'll be a part of the accomplishment of the Great Commission.